And welcome to Fincham Travels. Today I'm on one of the world's most infamous islands. Where am I? Many people tried to escape from this island. Most of them were shot dead, eaten by sharks or drowned. 5 apparently may have survived and the FBI is still looking for them. So where am I? Join me for my travels around Alcatraz.
So after a 20-minute journey on a ferry from Pier 33 with Alcatraz City Cruises, I arrived at Alcatraz. The price of the tour was around $48, and I suggest you book in advance if you're going to San Francisco and want to go to Alcatraz. It sells out extremely quickly. And from the back of the ferry you can get some fantastic views of San Francisco in the distance. Now, Alcatraz prison was feared by all of those criminals who were going to go to jail. They did not want to end up in Alcatraz. Alcatraz was home to over 1,550 prisoners during its time as a penitentiary. So there have been a number of infamous prisoners at Alcatraz. None more than Al Capone, the infamous Chicago gangster and Prohibition-era boss. Robert Stroud, otherwise known as the Birdman, he was convicted of murder and he actually spent 54 years of his life behind bars, not all of it at Alcatraz. Machine Gun Kelly, a small-time bootlegger who became a Prohibition gangster, he spent time in Alcatraz of over 17 years. Mickey Cohen, a notorious Los Angeles gangster. James Whitney Bulger, another well-known crime boss, he spent time in Alcatraz. And the Anglin brothers too, they spent time there, John and Clarence. There's a lot of infamous gangsters, murderers, fraudsters, all locked up at Alcatraz. Now there's one of the old watchtowers, making sure nobody was escaping from the prison. There's an awful lot of birds on the island as well. You can probably hear them all in the background. If you leave them alone, they won't bother you in any way. Now, a lot of people say, why didn't more prisoners escape? Well, in these waters here, there's great white sharks. This is really bad current, and you will get swept away and you will drown. And that is why a lot of prisoners didn't try and escape. The only way you're really going to get away is if you've got a raft, a boat, or a ferry, and clearly none of them did. Those are the stairs up to the main prison, but you won't use those, you'll use the walkway. Now if you can't get up the hill, it's quite a steep hill up to the main prison, they do supply a buggy and you'll be able to get up on the buggy, so don't worry if you are not very good on your feet, they'll be able to get you up there in the buggy. Now it looks like some of the birds on the island misbehave. This one's been put behind bars. This is one of the old trucks they used to use around the island to transport all the goods. And that's in the archway up to the main prison. It does get pretty cold on Alcatraz. You are out from the main city and you get the cold air and the wind, so do dress appropriately when you go to Alcatraz. And this is a view as you're walking up the steep hill to the prison. That is a prison to your right. And as you can see there, that's the hill from the docking bay up to the main prison. Top tip when you're coming to Alcatraz, get the first ferry over from the mainland, 8:40. You've got plenty of time in Alcatraz and there's no crowds and no queues.
Let's go inside Alcatraz and see what it's all about.
So as you enter, you'll get your self-tour pack, which is a pack that goes around your neck with headphones, and you can have it in various languages. So this was one of the cells in Alcatraz. Just shows you how small it was. You got the cell door, you got the bed against the cell door, you got the toilet against the back wall, you've got your basin, you've got a table with one chair, and you've got your light switch for your one light. That's it. No luxuries in those days, and lights went out at 9:30 p.m. Any noise after then, you would get yourself in a lot of trouble with the guards. So to give you an idea how big the cells were, generally they measured 9 feet by 5 feet and were only 7 feet high. The cells were primitive and lacked privacy. Everyone could look into your cell. Now, Alcatraz was a maximum security prison, so the guards would not take any messing around from any of the inmates. If any of the inmates messed around, and there were plenty who did, then they would be put in solitary confinement. And later on in the video, I go into one of those cells where there was solitary confinement and it was pitch black for most of the day. So after you've done that, maybe for a day or two, you're going to hopefully behave yourself for the rest of your term in prison. So the official name of the prison was United States Penitentiary, Alcatraz Island, but it's also simply known as Alcatraz. And you may remember there was a film about Alcatraz called The Rock. Alcatraz is located 1.25 miles or 2.01 kilometers off the coast of San Francisco. This has been the site of a fort since the 1850s, and the main prison building was built in 1910 to 1912, initially as a US Army military prison. When it changed to a penitentiary, the bars, as you can see there, were strengthened so people couldn't escape.
And this is the library. All those years ago, people would sit in here reading books.
Now, the Birdman used to look after birds in the previous prison he was in. That's why he got the nickname Birdman. He took up law when he was in Alcatraz, so I'm sure he was in here reading his law books.
Gives you an idea how many cells there were here at Alcatraz. And it went all the way down to 3 levels, all cells.
Now, the operators of the prison thought this was escape-proof because of the cold waters, the sharks, and the strong currents of the San Francisco Bay, but there were a lot of attempts to escape this island. Most people got shot, ate by sharks. Some, like I said earlier, 5, are still unaccounted for, even to this day. Now, this rusty old door is the entrance to the recreational area for the prisoners, where they'd get some fresh air. They wouldn't get much time out here at all. It was actually quite eerie being out here. I was the only one out there at the time, just imagining what it was like back in the day. Now, on your tour, if you're coming to the recreational area, go through this door just about to come into shot. You're going to get some great views over San Francisco. This is part of the tour. You can walk out here, you're not doing anything you shouldn't. And in the distance, you're going to see the Golden Gate Bridge. So these are the steps the prisoners may have sat on during their time out in the recreational area, with a prison behind them. Only the ground floor is open to visitors, but I have managed to get you a shot here from the second floor with the walkway there along all of the prison cells, and a close-up there of one of the prison cells on level 2. And another section as well, I've managed to get some footage from level 2. Gives you an idea what the prisoners were looking out on from level 2, probably better than level 1 to be fair. And again the walkway along and across the way you can see all the other cells right across from those cells on level 2. Now this is where the prisoners would sit if they've got a visitor, and I'll show you where the visitors arrived in a second. And this is the opposite side where the visitor would sit to see their relatives, friends, family, acquaintances. They would be locked in, as you'll see the cell doors in a minute. They would be locked in whilst they were talking to the prisoners. This is the old utility corridor. Inmates were basically entitled to food, clothing, shelter, and medical attention. There was a cafeteria and restaurant within the prison. Anything else was seen as a privilege. Inmates were given a blue shirt, grey pants, blue and white in later years, a web belt, cotton long underwear, socks, and a blue handkerchief. The wearing of caps was forbidden in the cell house. Attempting to bribe, intimidate, or assault prison officers was seen as a very serious offence. And I can imagine every inmate would like a key to this door.
I'm just going to walk in it, and then I'll switch the camera. And you can see, here I am in a cell at Alcatraz. It is a very, very small area to spend most of the day. I'm just going to pan round and you can have a look.
And that cell was one that was solitary confinement, so you're in the dark most of the day.
And this is a smaller cell in Alcatraz.
Alcatraz also has its own lighthouse, and that's been there since 1909 to ward off ships passing by. Alcatraz had a main cell house containing 3 standard cell blocks, A, B and C. B and C house the vast majority of the 336 cells over 3 levels for the general inmate population. However, you did not want to be in block D. D was for segregation purposes, featuring more spacious cells but more stricter confinement, and contained the whole, which I showed you earlier, which is 6 solitary confinement cells at the end for the most troublesome inmates. Those cells are right at the end, away from everyone else, in block D. Alcatraz opened its doors in August 1934, that's 91 years ago, and closed its doors in March 1963, 62 years ago. So that was Alcatraz. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Do subscribe, plenty of videos on the channel and plenty more on the way. Until next time, from Fincham Travels, when I'll see you in a video real soon, you take care, you stay safe. Bye-bye.